Cualquier pregunta pueden hacer ustedes también.
El problema es about...
Dime, ¿ya te recogieron? Perfecto, dale. Dale.
She got her driver?
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Larry Blumenfeld. I am the jazz curator here at Spoleto Festival USA. On behalf of everyone at the festival, I want to welcome you here to our jazz talk. Our Wells Fargo Jazz Series at the festival has many facets, not just concerts, but also workshops for students and public talks like this. So, and this man, Pedrito Martinez, just today, he's pretty much running the gamut. We just came from doing a student workshop in North Charleston where he and his band blew people's minds. We're here now. Tonight at 9 o'clock at the Cistern Yard will be Pedrito Martinez Echoes of Africa, which is a concert that will span very, very old Afro-Cuban rituals through very, very new music that Pedrito's still creating in the room next door. When I'm not here, I write about music for Wall Street Journal, many other publications. Anywhere I've ever written in the past 15 or so years, I've written about this man, Pedrito Martinez. The Canadian saxophonist Jane Burnett, who first brought Pedrito on tour and brought him to the United States, once told me, I used it for a headline, hands like lightning, voice like thunder. And I thought that was appropriate, except sometimes his hands are like thunder and his voice is like lightning, and that doesn't even cover his dancing, it doesn't even cover his songwriting or his band leading. So we're going to talk a little bit about the breadth of everything that Pedrito, and I just want to say that, you know, when Pedrito, he has come here before, and when he comes here, it's magnificent, very singular, personal music. There's no one else who can do what he does. But it also connects to a very, very important story that I've been thinking about for a long time, which is if you want to understand jazz, if you want to understand music in the United States, in this continent, in this hemisphere, you need to know about Cuban, well, you already know about Cuban traditions, you just may not be aware of it. So maybe a place to start is where you, and when I say that Pedrito Martinez is the greatest living Cuban percussionist, don't believe me? You can listen to Wynton Marsalis, or Eric Clapton, or Paul Simon, or any of the long list of musicians who've said that and who've sought Pedrito out and worked with him. So can we start where you started?
That's it, I'm done, man.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Pedrito Martinez.
You know, thank you.
The Cayohueso neighborhood.
With an introduction like that, you don't need like any other people around you. You should be the one who present the band in every venue from all over the world. Actually, you know,
it can be
Larry,
arranged. It can be arranged.
Thank you so much, man. It's such an honor for me to be here talking to you guys and especially to you, man. You know, I admire you so much and you'll be doing a lot for my career too. Larry's a dear friend and that's the main reason why he's saying all those beautiful things about me. I had to be strong enough to represent all he just said about me tonight. I will try my best, brother.
I was saying that before we were even friends. Back when I was hearing you in a little restaurant in Midtown Manhattan called Guantanamera, where you could go in, and it was ridiculous. You could go in and hear this band, which was really like a laboratory for this music and a laboratory for the kit that you play, which we'll talk about. But okay, so take us to Cayohueso neighborhood in Havana. What were you hearing and experiencing there when you were a boy?
Well, I grew up in a neighborhood called Cayohueso. This is in the middle of Havana. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cuba and Havana. How many people been here in Havana before? So I grew up in the middle of Havana, near to the Callejón de Hamel, a beautiful place where you have all the wall painted by one of the greatest artists from Cuba, Salvador. He already passed away. So my mom, she's a frustrated singer. She have a beautiful voice, but she never became a professional singer. But my mama's daughter, her oldest brother, he was one of the greatest percussion players from Cuba. He used to play with an epic, a great band, one of the classic band from Cuba. The name was Pello el Afrocan. Pello el Afrocan who was the person who invented the Mozambique, one of the most representative rhythm from Cuba. So in the neighborhood I grew up, I was so privileged and lucky that there was a lot of rumba and folklore music going on. And also across the street from my house, there was a place, a rehearsal place where I had the great honor to see one of my favorite orchestras, Ritmo Oriental, Orquesta Aragón, Neno González, Pancho el Bravo. So I grew up largely listening to a lot of folk music and traditional music also from Cuba. So I was lucky that I grew up in that neighborhood.
Now, when you say rumba, because we maybe know the word rumba in many contexts, sometimes spelled with an H even, but most of the time not. When you say rumba, what did that mean?
Well, rumba is a secular genre of Cuban music that involved dancing, singing, and playing. We used to say that it's a folklore music because we add a lot of Yoruba chant and many other genres into the rumba. But rumba is the most traditional, rhythm and genre that we play in Cuba. Most of the orchestras from Cuba have a lot of music from Cuba in general. I can say they have a big influence for that genre of music from rumba. So Cubans represent the rumberos and music. Cuban music, even contemporary music, have so much influence from the rumba.
Now, I know when I was in Cuba talking to older people who knew you, they said Pedrito used to get in trouble for cutting classes. But when you were cutting classes, you were really studying something else, right?
Yeah, the reason I was cutting classes, first of all, was because I was not good. And second of all, was because I loved so much music that when I was going in my way to school, I used to listen to a lot of, I saw a lot of rehearsals going on, and I was stopping by rehearsal, 10 minutes in there, and then to the next one. And then by the time I was supposed to be in school, it was already late. So my mom was so mad, and she said, you know what, I need to do something with you. You need to become someone in life. You cannot be like that. If you don't want to study, you have to work. So, and then I started working in the pizzeria. And it was even worse. Because I used to play, I was a table. I was working on the elaboration part. They call elaboration part in Cuba when you have to put the pizzas inside of the how do you call that thing?
Of it, yeah.
Yeah. So, I was practicing. I put I remember it was Saturday. The name of the pizzeria was Trasteveres in the middle of Havana. And it was 12 p.m. It was a lot of people. That was a lot of people. Big line to get pizza. So I put 27 pizzas, and then I start practicing. And then the manager start running to me, Pedro, what you doing, man? I said, what I'm doing? Nothing. I'm just waiting for the pizza to be ready to. You burned all those pizzas, man. You were not paying attention, so I got fired. My mom said, that's it. That's it. What are you gonna do now? I said, Mom, I'm gonna start work. I'm gonna continue working, not in the pizzeria. I'm gonna go to a cafeteria now. So I went to a cafeteria where they used to give me a bottle of juice, but not the juice. It was how do you call the juice, but you had to mix it with water. It was like authentic. Exactly. So they used to tell me, you have to, from this bottle of this bottle, you need at least 50 glass of juice. So I started putting more water to make some money. And then an inspection came, and he said, and then taste it. He said, oh my God, man, you're in trouble. What happened? This is not real, man. You put so much water in this. So I got fired again. And then my mom said, you know what? What do you want to be in life? What do you want to do? I said, I want to be a musician. Because in my house, we used to listen to music. As soon as we wake up, it was music all over, every day, from day to night. So I started playing my first gig. The first gig I did was at the Garcia Lorca, Teatro Garcia Lorca, one of the most beautiful theaters in Cuba, in Havana. And I was playing cowbell. I remember they were playing Congo, which is a genre of music from the folklore, from the Bantu ethnic groups. I was playing the cowbell. I remember it was 6/8. I was so stressed because the clave is the pattern that has to hold everyone together. And then I start seeing people looking at me, all the musicians looking at me. I was going back and back. It was too fast. And I was going back. So I got in trouble again. And then I was wondering, maybe I'm not going to be a great musician. But the thing was, I started learning so fast. Every time they used to give me a pattern, I learned it so fast. And then that's when I realized maybe I can be a great musician. Okay. So, and that's happened with the bata drums, which is the main instrument I play, that people normally take like a year, 2 years to learn it, and I learned the three of them in 2-3 months. So it was.
Which is a set of 3 two-headed drums, which you will see tonight if you go to the concert.
Yeah, it's an instrument.
Now the bata is essential to, because we've talked a little bit about various performances of music, but early on the ceremonies were important to what you were learning about music and culture too, right?
Yeah. As I was saying in the master class, Larry, with the ethnic groups, many ethnic groups were brought to Cuba. It was a slave trade, and one of those ethnic groups were the people from Nigeria, the Yoruba community, So since I was little, I started getting so curious and interested about the religion. So I became a priest, and I started learning all the Yoruba chants, and start being completely, full-time active to play ceremonies in Cuba, where people used to pay good money and enjoy dressing all white and having a good time. So I learned so much from the elders and people that used to be alive. They're not alive anymore. But I learned a lot about the Yoruba tradition and the culture, and that's what I've been trying to keep alive all these years. And actually, in most of my records, I make sure in my concert, try to put a lot of the chants, add a lot of chants, and that is the spirituality that the Yoruba music bring to people's life, especially to my life.
And for the past, 20 years or so, I guess, in the New York area, you're someone who leads these ceremonies, right?
Yeah,
so you're a spiritual leader for that community.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's a lot of Afro-American people that are into religion, Puerto Ricans, Dominican, Cuban, Mexican. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful community that support each other.
So if we went to the Bronx or to a ceremony that you were leading, and we went to the Cistern Yard later tonight, at some point, we'd be hearing some of the same rhythms, right?
Almost. Actually, from the bata patterns, you're gonna hear the same ones. Even the chants are gonna be exactly the same. And even the dance.
Now, it's interesting, a lot of the Cuban musicians that I brought to this festival that I write about, many of them are Yosvani Terry, the saxophonist, David Varela, the pianist. When I talked to them, they all came up through a Cuban conservatory system, and which you didn't. And at some point in their education, even though jazz or American music wasn't taught in those conservatories, they'd always find a teacher who had cassettes, who would hip them to it, who would give them access. What American music came to you when in your life, and how did you first get exposed? You've had so much of a relationship with jazz. When did you first gain exposure to that?
I got exposure to American music since I was, I can say, 11 years old. You know, because the economic, political, and social situation of Cuba, we were not allowed to listen to American music back in the days. So in my house, we used to listen to American music in a little radio with the volume very soft. But, you know, the first time I heard, you know, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Kool and the Gang, The Meters, even Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Queen. It's a mix that, you know, actually Cuban musicians are so familiar with American music. We have a huge influence of American music. So since I was little Larry, I was able to listen to those, you know, American music. And actually, it was something great for my career. Because when I got here in the United States, I was so familiar with the music from Bruce Springsteen, from Elton John, and many other great artists that I had the great honor to play and record and travel with them. So I never thought that was going to happen in my life, especially because I came from the street.
I remember there was a jazz at Lincoln. Each year, Jazz at Lincoln Center would have like a pop star come and work with you. And I remember Paul Simon came, and that was the first time I understood what the middle of late in the evening is really about. Because that break, that rhythm break, had you on it, and you took it to a whole different place. When did you first start? What about jazz? Because I know you've worked so extensively with the greatest jazz musicians, and they have their own rhythmic science that is related. It has its own African root, but it's quite different from where you're. When did you start connecting with that music and those drummers?
I mean, actually, in 2000, I won the Thelonious Monk Afro-Hand competition in Washington, D.C. Every year they do a different instrument. When, you know, the percussion one came, I won the competition. And right away I started playing.
Which was a really big deal. I mean, I remember huge. Talking to you at the time, and you were like, all these people that came from Berkeley College of Music, they came from here, they had worked with Herbie or done this or that, and no one knew you, and you had none of that kind of resume.
Not at all.
And it really was just, I was there, and the judges were unanimous.
Mm-hmm. So it was beautiful, and it was actually. It's great that you had mentioned that, Larry, because I was so frustrated and I was feeling uncomfortable with the whole situation, because actually that was something accidentally for me. A friend of mine sent me an email saying, Pedrito, there's a competition that's going to be in Washington, D.C. this day, and you need to send 5 minutes you playing any kind of Latin jazz rhythm, and then a song, you playing on top of the song for 5 minutes. So I sent the application, they accepted. When I get there, there was like almost 100 musicians that applied to be in the competition. And when I saw the resume, the bio of all of them, they were graduated from Berkeley School of Music, or the greatest school of music in America. And when they saw my resume, I just had few names. One name was Tatawines, that you guys don't even know who Tatawines is, and Pancho Quinto. So those two people were great percussion players from Cuba, but they were folklore musicians. They were rumberos, and they never went to school of music. So I also remember I had two gold teeth.
Right.
So it was funny. Because they all were dressed in very, beautiful. I was,
Of course, now all those people are trying to dress like you, but that's another story.
It was kind of, anyway. So we did the semifinal. I passed the semifinal, and then on the final, passed, they said, Pedrito, you the first place, you won the competition. They gave me $20,000. In my life, I never saw $200. So Herbie Hancock gave me the check. And I was shaking. I was like confused. I was not expecting I was going to win. Because I thought, well, I never went to school of music. All these people, have a beautiful resume. They, I was feeling they were better musicians than me. And then I said, by myself, I'm going to do what I know. I'm going to play from my heart and do what I know. So anyway, I won the competition, and right away I started playing with Paquito Rivera, Steve Turrell, Eddie Palmieri, Brian Lynch, Winter Marsalis. It was a drastic clock. It was so fast. The transition was I was not prepared for that. So what I started doing was I started practicing for 9, 11 hours in my house, and my wife thought I was gonna get sick. I was not eating. Because I thought in my mind, oh, Pedro, you need to run, because the quality of musician, the level in New York City is great. So I thought I was behind, and I started practicing for many hours, not eating, just practicing. And I put video cameras in every corner. Because after I was practicing for many hours, I used to check myself. Oh, I have to practice more the slap, the rudiments. I have to, my position has to be better. I was kind of checking myself out to see what I can, to get better. It was a beautiful journey for me. I learned so much from all those great musicians, and that's what it was.
I remember interviewing you not long ago after that, and you were talking about, okay, now you're around these rhythm sections and these drummers that are at the highest level of jazz, and that you said something to me to the effect of, it's different, much different than hearing them, being with them, seeing them, feeling what they're doing. Yeah. You see how that they put that together. What were some of the secrets that were revealed about what a jazz drummer does at a trap set? Or can you even talk about that?
I mean, I was so fortunate that that I had the opportunity to play with the greatest jazz musicians. And I can say that jazz and folk music are so related, because there's a lot of improvisation going on. It's all about feeling. I think jazz is all about, expressing yourself and being free. Not a lot of music allow you to be free, to be yourself.
But even structurally, I remember you told me when I asked you about your music, you said it all comes back to the rhythms and the chants.
Yeah.
And I think of a lot of modern jazz, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's how Quentin Baxter in this city works. That's, so I do.
I think one of the formula that's been working for me perfectly fine is that, actually I have the whole group, my whole band is here.
And
yeah.
And they're all virtuosos in their own right.
So I'm so happy, and I think I'm one of the luckiest human beings on earth, because I've been trying hard, and always trying to make sure that each of them can be free, express themselves, and bring any idea they want. It doesn't matter if we don't rehearse it. It doesn't matter if it's something that we didn't talk about it. Sometimes it's like, what was that? Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't like it. But I accept it, because I think music, in my opinion, is all about freedom and let people be who they are. I think sometimes, I would like to see all of them dressing all white or black. But, when I think about that, I say, he's not feeling good dressing all white and wearing a hat like me. What should I do that? So I'm already putting him in a position that he's feeling a little bit uncomfortable. So they dress the way they want in any kind of situation. They bring any idea they want in any kind of situation. We discuss it and we make sure, this is going to work perfectly fine. So that's what happened when I started playing with all these great jazz musicians, Kenny Garrett, Wynton Marsalis, John Faddis, and many others, Pharoah Sanders. When they saw the person I am, I'm always, most of the time I'm always laughing. I came from a very beautiful family. My parents been together forever. I had 3 more brothers. They play music too. And what I saw since I was 11 years old in my family was love and happiness. So that's what I had to share with people. And I was trying to make sure that people feel comfortable, completely comfortable and transparent, and feel that what I'm saying and what I'm giving to them is real.
And positive, yeah.
So, and Wynton was like that with me. I was like so impressed of how, how he let you be free and add whatever idea you think is gonna add to the music. So Wynton is one of those people that I can say this like my mentor, like Ruben Blades and many other musicians. But Wynton is in 2 of my albums. I have been involved in so many projects that Wynton.
You did there was a commissioned piece that involved the great Cuban pianist Chucho Valdez, but it was really a collaboration of you and Wynton.
Yeah, we
and
did.
How did you work on that? How did that? Because that was brilliant.
First of all, I told Wynton, I want you to know my culture from me, because I'm 100% into religion. Sometimes people think religion is something negative or something that people just manipulate you, man, or whatever. I think the Yoruba tradition is a beautiful culture that has been survived for so many years. And it's been passed from one generation to the other. It's all about love and understanding and support each other, And if human being, each person is completely different and they interpret it completely different. And I don't have any problem about that. It's just that I was making sure that Wynton understand what is this of religion about. It's not about religion. It's about music. It's about love. It's about sharing. It's about support. So he went to a ceremony with me, and that blew his mind. He was like, what is this, Pedrito? Never saw anything like that in my life. So they brought a lot of video cameras. They record everything, and then we both decided to put together a project called Ochas. Ochas means deities, or richas, from the Yoruba pantheon. So Wynton did a brilliant work. He rearranged and reharmonized all the chants from some of the deities, and also Chucho Valdez was a special guest. But the whole work in the arrangement and was Wynton and me.
Right, and you gave him the chants and the rhythms.
Yeah, all the ideas. It was amazing.
It
It was a challenge for me and really changed my life. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah, we presented in our jazz series earlier this week a presentation called Low Country that actually, the core of it were these Gullah, island elders who sing their chant versions of hymns in praise houses. And then other musicians took it and created modern jazz out of it. But it reminded me of what you did. And really what you'll hear tonight is largely that too. At the core of it is the very pure religious expression, but turned into something very modern. Now, before I mentioned a little bit about your drum kit, which part of my fascination at Guantanamera was each time I'd come back, it would be different. And so if you were to look at the drum, his own kit that he would play tonight, to me it's like no one else has that kit. And it sort of is like the history of rhythm in the Americas. Like later, can you talk a little bit about what's in that kit and how you use it?
Yeah, actually, Larry, as you were mentioning before, I used to have a residency in this little club in Manhattan. The name is Guantanamera. I used to play there for the whole week, from Monday through Saturday. 3 sets a night. It was crazy. So we put the whole music together in there. All the ideas came out in there. We were not rehearsing at all. It was not necessary. Back in those days, I just had one cajon, one cowbell in my right foot, and 2 congas. What you're gonna see tonight has nothing to do with that. What I have is like, it's like the whole, I have 4 congas, 2 cymbals, snare, hi-hat, cajon. It's crazy. I don't even know how to play all that
Right,
at the same time.
Instead
But-
of a bass drum, you're sitting on a cajon.
Yeah.
And
So, but the idea of putting that setup together was Jazz Bistro. I was having a residency at Jazz Bistro. In Jazz Bistro is in, I think, Minneapolis. I had a duo project with a friend of mine, Alfredo Rodriguez, a great piano player from Cuba. And then we were talking about what we're gonna do, Alfredito. We're gonna be performing here 2 sets a night for the whole week, and it's just the 2 of us. How we gonna sound big and impress people? And then Alfredito told me, Pedrito, you can do it, man. Why you don't put a cymbal in here, put some batas here, bongos, and start using all that. So the first night I did, I started feeling so comfortable. It was like, I was feeling like I played that setup for years. So when I come back to New York, I told the cats in the group, guys, starting now, I'm gonna use this setup like that. And then from there, I start practicing and making sure that I feel more comfortable, So that was like that.
It really isn't. A hi-hat is clearly represents music of this country, and especially a jazz drummer.
Yeah, and the other thing was that the music that we play in Cuba, people call it timba, which is a contemporary music from Cuba. Most of the time, or in general, I can say like that, the timba groups in Cuba have like almost 12 musicians, 3 horns, 2 background vocal singers, the lead singer, bongos, drum, congas, piano and bass. And I was thinking, how am I gonna sound that big with just a quartet or quintet? So that's why I start adding all those cajon, to simulate the kick drum and snare, hi-hat. It was hard at the beginning because hitting those hard cymbals with my hand was, getting damage in my hands, but now I'm good. I'm used to, and I feel good about it.
I know you've had very close relationships with some of the modern Afro-Cuban, both religious and percussion masters here. When you first arrived here, I guess you even lived for a while with Orlando Puntillo Rios.
Yeah.
Who was, and I know that actually we had Roman Diaz here with David Varelas. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about Puntilla and Roman and what they represent for you and in general?
Oh, actually, Orlando Puntilla Rios, in my opinion, was the person who hold on his shoulder and push hard and keep alive the Afro-Cuban legacy in the United States in general. I can say that. I met Puntilla Rios when I used to live in Cuba. He came in 1998, but I used to go to Cuba a lot to visit his family. And in one of those times he went to Cuba, I was playing some, ceremonies, and he saw me playing, and he became a fan. I was 13 years old. I was very young. So after that, every time he used to come to Cuba, he was making sure that when he used to play, when he used to do some ceremonies, I was going to be there. So fortunately for me, Roman Diaz, my godfather, a person who I brought to the United States, he was the leader of the group that used to play for ceremonies in Cuba. He was a great friend of Puntilla. So when I got here in 1998, the first thing Puntilla did was, you can stay in my house. You're a family. So it was great. It was Puntilla. I got the great opportunity to play with so many bands before I won the month competition. He opened many doors for me and for many other musicians. I remember we used to have a residency in Jersey in a place called La Esquina Habanera, the Havana Corner. And Puntilla used to bring his group, New Generation, over there, and I was one of the most, important pieces from him, because I used to sing and dance and play, and I was the youngest member of that group. So Puntilla became like my father here. He was great. And Roman Diaz is a character. He's my godfather. I learned so much from him since I was 13 years old. We used to hang in Cuba. He teach me a lot of things. He's an icon for me.
He's a mysterious.
His knowledge about religion and music is amazing. It's amazing. And I'll be happy to come back to this beautiful festival one day with him as a special guest. Hopefully
I have heard what happens when the two of you are together. Now, am I right that the very first time you were touring professionally, it was as a dancer, right? With the Conga Kings?
Actually, it was not as a dancer, but I was dancing a lot.
Yeah.
So it was almost as a dancer. And actually, the first time I get out of Cuba, the first time I traveled in my life was when I used to live in Cuba with a group that Roman and Ulysses, a friend of mine, put together. And I went to Paris, to France, for the first time. And it was this kind of project that we used to have a lot of show. We used to go in front and do some long percussion breaks. I was very young. I was so anxious to do everything at the same time. And, Roman, my godfather, and Ulysses gave me that opportunity. I was so hyper, man. I'm still hyper, but, I'm 50 years old now. I cool down, But, I was like, I have to dance. I dance. I have to sing. Let me sing. I have to play, do the three things at the same time. So when my godfather and Puntilla saw that, they said, let's take advantage of this kid. He want to do that, let's all chill out. And so it was great, man.
Well, if you go to the performance tonight, you'll see that there actually are two very important dancers involved in this. And at a certain point, I'm sure you will be dancing. But, when people talk about jazz, when I talk to older jazz musicians, much older jazz musicians, they talk about a moment when, or a long time, when that music was inseparable from dance. And that has changed. And, if you really listen to Thelonious Monk, you can hear the dance in it, but it's different. But in the music you came up through, Afro-Cuban music, from antiquity to now, that's never separated, right?
Never. Especially in folk music, most of the bata players, of the musicians, know how to dance and know how to sing.
Right.
Some of them sing better than playing, but in general, that's part of the rules. I remember when I started playing bata, I was not able to play for the dancers if I don't know what they dancing.
Right.
I cannot sing for the day they dancing if I don't know the songs. So it's something that are completely connected one to the other. And that's what I've been doing in this group, They all sing, they all great band leaders, they play many instruments. So that's the spirituality, and that's the connection and the dynamic that I want in my group. So in this particular occasion, I brought two of the greatest dancers from the best rumba group from Cuba, the Muñequitos de Matanza. Muñequitos de Matanza is one of the oldest and most traditional and important and representative group from Cuba. that they've been traveling all over the world. People know about rumba in Cuba because Muñequitos de Matanza. And I had the great honor to bring Bárbaro Ramos, he's the founder of Muñequitos. He's dancing with Muñequitos since he was 5 years old. And his father is the owner of the Muñequitos. So, and his sister, Yamile, is coming too. So this is the very first time I'm gonna, work with them, or they're gonna work with my group. And that's why I decided to bring Echoes of Africa.
Yeah, back in the Guantanamera days, the other fascination, not just your kit taking shape, I saw a band concept taking shape. And I remember you talked about it like it was like a laboratory. Now, with this group, which frankly I think is the best one yet, what were you trying to do in putting together this group? Because I know, it's not as simple as, hey, I'm creating a rumba group, or hey, I'm creating a jazz quartet or a jazz quintet. So what was the, how did that take shape? The band we hear now?
I mean, Echoes of Africa I'm trying to offer like a very pure ideas of what Afro-Cuban music can be mixed with, It's just not that we're bringing a project called Echoes of Africa and we're gonna just play some Yoruba chants. For me, Afro-Cuban music evolved classical music from Spain. And in general, the reason I have people from different parts of the world is because for me, it's all about mixing, it's all about sharing genres of music, culture, experience, ideas. So, Sebastian, the guy in the middle, is the bass player from the group. He's from Montevideo, Uruguay. Right next to him, with that beautiful hair, is Cito Lovell. He's from Colón, Panama. And back there with the black hat, with the panther on it, is Manuel Marquez from Caracas, Venezuela. So, what I'm trying to do, or I've been trying to do all this year with the band and with all the projects that I've been putting out there, is to make sure that people understand that mixing and sharing cultures make the music, put the music in a better level. There's no doubt about it. Especially now, music, the whole music world is all about collaboration and sharing ideas of all the kind of genres of music with people. So every time a man that he's from Cuba, but he came from the classical world, bringing an idea to the group, it blew my mind, because even I used to live, I'm from Cuba, and I lived there for 25 years. I never had the opportunity to know as much classical music as now, because all the information he's been providing to me is fascinating. And I'm so excited to continue learning about that. We just put a duo project together called Cross Current. And the very first concert we're gonna do is gonna be in October. And it's the mix of classical music with Afro-Cuban music. So in this particular project called Echoes of Africa, we have a lot of those things. It's so important for me that people understand that music, it's just one thing, love. It's all about love. It don't matter if you're playing classical music, hip hop, and I love to mix all those things. In all my recordings, I have so many special guests. In my latest album, I have Eric Clapton in 3 of my compositions. I have Kenny Garrett. I have John Faddis. I have Miguel Zenón, David Sanchez, Etienne Charles, Chan Jones, Gilberto Santa Rosa, Isa Delgado, Alexander Abreu. It's crazy. But when I listen my albums at home, it's like I feel so good. It's like, wow, I'm sharing all these beautiful ideas with my brothers, with people that are genius, with people that I admire so much, that are great musicians, especially because I never thought I was going to be able to play with Bruce Springsteen, Eric Clapton, Sting, Elton John. I mean, I came from
very bad and hard neighborhood in the middle of Havana. And then I see myself playing at the Carnegie Hall, full house, with all these great artists. It's like, wow, I don't even know how that happened, but it's happening. I learned so much from that.
Well, I'm curious about, like, with the, you know, for instance, working with, say, Eric Clapton, or some of the pop musicians that you've just mentioned. What do you learn from them? Or is there something, what have you gained from those experiences?
I mean, the first thing I learned from them is that you can be so famous and being wealthy, and that had nothing to do with being humble and being kind and being a nice person, you know. And they treat me like I'm one of them. Yeah. They treat me with so much respect, and they gave me a lot of love, and that's all I have to do.
Herbie's like that too, of course.
You know, especially I came from a family that was all about love, and I don't know if this is something telepathic. Can say maybe they see when people are like you know, they have that spirituality or that vibe. I don't know what it is, but I've been so lucky that every time I bring, you know, I had the opportunity to play with some of them. They treat me so nice, man. They show him so much respect, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. When you feel like that, it's great.
You know, there was a very interesting moment this morning at the workshop where your brilliant pianist was playing a few very well-known classical themes, and then taking them at an absurd pace, absurd meter, but then slowly inserting Cuban phrasing and Afro-Cuban bass lines, and it worked because it's really there. It is in that music, and it's only very slowly over decades of my work that I started to realize, okay, New Orleans is so close to Cuba, and musicians used to go back and forth, so any New Orleans jazz, there's Cuba in there. Or early rock and roll, Bo Diddley beat is clave. It's just straight up clave. And I think most Americans think of Latin music or Afro-Cuban music in a corner. And I'm curious, on the other side of the other perspective, when you came here, or when you started hearing American jazz, American pop, did you hear the Cuban music in it from the start?
In some of the groups, yes. Yeah, definitely. Especially in the first time I played with Lincoln Jazz Orchestra, Lincoln Jazz, Wynton Marsalis Orchestra. Yeah, Wynton, he made sure that, you know, the clave is always on the arrangements, that people know what, you know.
Now, how many people here are familiar with the concept of clave? Don't be, all right, so should we what's the 101 version of here's what clave is?
Yeah, I mean, clave is the most important, you know, rhythm that we use for Cuban music in general. Back in the days, we used to call rumba clave and son clave. Machito came out with a brilliant idea when he got here in the United States, and they call it now 3-2 clave and 2-3. Because that was way more easy for students to understand. So, in general, for me, in any kind of music that I've been collaborating that is not Cuban music, I always feel a clave. Okay. Clave is something you feel, and it's based on rhythm. What rhythm? It doesn't matter if it's Venezuelan music or music from Uruguay. They have their own clave. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not 3-2, 2-3. Jazz have its own clave. I can play a rumba clave or son clave in any kind of genre of music.
Which is division of 5 beats in group. So if they were clapping a 2-3 clave, maybe they'll do it. How would they clap it?
So if you want to clap 2-3 clave, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So, but remember, what Machito did was, you can play 3-2 and 2-3, but you can play 3-2, rumba clave, and 2-3 son clave. It matters. It's just about the counting you're doing, where it's gonna start, the clave. For example, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, that's 3-2 rumba clave. So if you wanna do 2-3 rumba clave, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, if nothing
It's not
else,
as complicated as we think it is. But it's all about, you just need to feel it.
really,
Clave is not something separate to music. You need to feel music, with or without clave. And that's the most important thing about Afro-Cuban music. It's all about feelings, it's all about having a good time and feeling comfortable. Larry was talking about Ahmed alone. Ahmed came from Havana, Cuba, and he learned in Cuba classical music. So in my opinion, he's one of the best piano players from his generation. And it's crazy. So what we've been doing here with the group is that each of them have a lot of protagonists. And I think that's the most important thing about music. It's just not about the band leader or about one piece. They all have this moment, the moment where they can, show who they are. My name is Cito Lovell. I'm from Colón, Panama. And this is what I represent. So Sebastian, the same thing. Ahmed, the same thing. So when Ahmed have his song, and Manuel too, when Ahmed have his part, his moment by himself, he goes to classical music.
mm-hmm.
And believe me, if you come to the concert tonight, he's gonna blow your mind.
Yep.
Because it's unexpected. And that's the other thing. We're trying to make sure that we are as much unpredictable as we can. They are so unpredictable, even for me. Sometimes we are playing things and I realize that they're doing something completely different. I don't know why, but it sounds great. So I love those surprises all the time.
Okay, so since we were able to take a moment and actually make music together, now we can take a few minutes and entertain some questions. And I think it's a small, is it a small? Yeah, what do you want to do? You want to do that? Yeah. Okay, we're going to have a mic, and if people could come up and just ask your question, and I think it may get answered.
Make it easy, please.
So thank you so much. That was inspiring. I want to go tonight.
Thank you.
I have two questions about the beginning of your talk. One is, how did your family manage to listen to American jazz if it was prohibited? And the second one is, can you tell us a little bit more about the Yoruba religion?
Okay, so actually, my parents, like many other parents in Cuba back in those days, they know that even it was not allowed to listen to American music. It was all about me. We love music, and unfortunately, we just were able to listen to Cuban music, and it was a curiosity, a natural one. And then I had 3 more brothers, one younger than me and 2 more older. We all dance, we all play, So my mama used to sing, not professional, but used to sing. So back in the day, it was all about long playing, like vinyls, huge vinyls. Okay. And we had, thank God we got the machine to put the the vinyls. So we were desperate to get all that music in vinyls, but it was not. It was illegal. People used to come out of the country for festivals in Europe, and then you used to tell your friends, please, if you go to France, if you go to United States, whatever country you go, can you bring some music? And back in the days, you cannot record from one vinyl to the other. There was no tape. It was all about vinyl. So they used to handle it to you. Listen to this. This is Patty Austin. This is Kenny Rogers. This is Donna Summer. This is Aretha Franklin. It was beautiful. It was a system that people were like, oh shit, we cannot listen to this music, but this sounds so good. How are we gonna, how are we not gonna listen to Aretha Franklin? So it was beautiful. But your parents, it's all about, son, if you love music, you have to listen to this type of music too. So, and the Yoruba religion came, as I was telling you. Cuba was still is a country that has so much problems, but it's both sides. It's not just problems. Cuba have a lot of beautiful things too. That sometimes people don't talk because they don't want to get in trouble, but they just don't want to be completely transparent and honest about the situation. I never talk about political things because it's not my thing. I have no idea about political things. But the only thing I can say is that when I was 11 years old, the only way for me to get out of Cuba and make some money to bring to my family was with the music. That was the only way. Because the situation was so difficult. Now, when I became a musician, the first time I get out of Cuba, I was so happy because I come back with some money, and I start helping my family and all that. The religion, what did the Yoruba religion did to me was the support. It was a community, big community that support each other. Oh, who is the person in trouble? No food, no clothes, this. All right, guys, let's work on that. Let's fix that problem, that situation. Now let's move on. Who is the next one? So it's all about supporting. Mm-hmm. So, and especially in Cuba, Cuba is a country that keep so much of those group ethnic religions alive. So, and that's what it is. That's the main reason people, became, continue getting initiated in the religion because the support and the love that people share with you and advices about life and all that is beautiful.
You asked about Yoruba, and a funny little story. I write for the Wall Street Journal, and at the last minute, an editor will come and say, well, we're checking, did Pedrito come to the U.S. in 1998 or 1999? So I wrote a piece about Michelle Rosewoman, a very great pianist who has organized Afro-Cuban bands in New York with Roman. And at the very last minute, I get an email, your piece is running in 1 hour, what is Yoruba? And I'm like, how much time do you have? It was scary. We have another question? We'll have time.
My question is for both of you gentlemen. A couple weeks ago, we lost David Sanborn, a great saxophonist. And I was wondering, Mr. Martinez, if you had ever worked with David Sanborn. And Larry, I'd like your input as well, if you have any thoughts on the passing of David. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to play with David, but I know who he was. It was great, one of the greatest.
I want to invite a question for Pedrito, but I will say very quickly that I learned who David Sanborn was by hearing him on David Bowie's album Young Americans. And I heard a sound, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool sound. And then there was this incredible TV show, which you can probably find, called Night Music, where David Sanborn would have musicians from all over the place that would never, ever be in the same place together. And look for that, and then you'll know who David Sanborn really was. What's your question for Pedrito?
Yeah, I was very interested to hear your remarks and your development. I'm a student of jazz on a worldwide basis, and I'm interested in how the different musicians develop in the various cultures they come from with this common culture of jazz. And I was wondering whether, one, you ever played with the United Nations Jazz Orchestra? Do you plan to do anything with them? It's a very, very important concept. Two names that were missing from your discussion this afternoon, I think, deserve to be mentioned because of their very, very important contributions to the fusing of jazz and Afro-Cuban rhythms. And they are the great South Carolinian, John Burke's Dizzy Gillespie, and the great Cuban conguero, Chano Pozo. And those two men played a great role in the 1940s. I'm a jazz historian. In forging these two musics and putting them together so that the people of the clave could express themselves more freely and more effectively. And so I'm very happy to see you here and hear what you're doing. I missed your master class at Louis Armstrong House Museum.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be there, but I had another engagement.
That
But
was fun.
I'm going to try to make up for that and learn some of the things that you're doing now. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I play djembes, so that's another African tradition, and they are interesting too, but they're all tied together. And so I'm very, very happy that you're showing that and showing how that music can help to bring the world together.
Thank you.
All on the same time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your work as a historian. I just want to mention, though, that story, Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo, the person that gets left out of the story a lot is the trumpeter Mario Bauza,
Yeah.
who was just as important in that picture
Oh, yeah.
and needs to be recognized.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Pedrito Martinez as we sit here?
¿Alguna pregunta tienen, muchachos?
Ah.
All right, I'll do one. And shout out to Guantanamera. Yes, yes, yes. My question, you mentioned Eric Clapton. You know, the others, you mentioned the Meters in Winton, but Eric Clapton you wouldn't think would be funky and, you know, into those beats and that sort of thing. So when you work with him, I think you said you had 5 tracks with him. What do you do? How do you come together? Does he come to you, or did you seek him out? And then where do you go from there? Do you already have the composition and you tell him to do his thing, or? Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Eric, the first time I met Eric was in Guantanamera.
Oh.
When I used to have the residency, he
Missed
brought
that
his
night.
his wife with 2 of his daughters. I remember they were little. Winton brought him. And then I have an epic picture of that night, because that night, Roger Waters was sitting on the same table with Eric Clapton. Quincy Jones was at the corner.
God.
Steve Winwood.
Okay.
Ross Tylerman, one of the greatest producers. And who else? Steve Gadd. Steve Gadd, a great drummer. He was the producer of my first album. I was panicked. I was panicked. I was scared. I was like, what am I gonna do? It was crazy. I don't think that a lot of musicians experience or witnesses something like that. Just because that was a little club.
Little club.
And I was sitting, and tables were back here. So, and some people were sitting here, not here.
Yeah.
Here was the stage.
Yeah.
So, when I was playing and I was turning sometime around, was when I realized they were sitting, they were there. And that's it, I don't want to turn again. So, you have no idea how beautiful and inspiring is to see all those legends in a little club watching your concert. So I've been a big fan of Eric Clapton for so long, especially right after he wrote the 3 songs for his son, after his son passed away. Circus, Tears on Heaven, and My Father's Eyes. So they wrote all those 3 songs in Dallas, Texas. He had a festival called Crossroad. I had the opportunity to play with him one time there. So I started emailing Eric Clapton right after I met him because I want him in one of my albums. It took me 10 years. Not for him to answer me.
Yeah.
No, he always answers. He said, Pedrito, I'm so busy, I'm traveling, I'm on tour, I'm sorry. When I lose my chance, my hope, I was in Singapore with a duo project, and I received an email from Eric Clapton saying, Pedrito, I'm going to be in London free. I have 1 week free in London. If you want to come here and record, I'll be happy. I flew to London. I went to Eric Clapton's studio. I just had one song called Aumba that I wrote for him to play on it. And a friend of mine did an arrangement of My Father's Eyes. But because I never thought it was going to be in my album, I said, well, let's put it in the album, but Eric Clapton's not going to be on it. I flew to London. I present him Aumba. He played an Aumba. And they said, Eric, I have an arrangement on My Father's Eyes. What are you talking about? Yeah. Can you hear it? We'll see if you like it. He listened to My Father's Eyes. He loved it. We both sing in My Father's Eyes. I have a lot of clips from the studio that day. It was beautiful. And then he said, Pedro, I want to play more. And then he plays a beautiful solo in another song that the other piano player I used to have in the band wrote. The name is Yo Si Quiero. So Eric Clapton playing 3 of the composition, my latest album. He's one of the most beautiful person I've met in my life. It's great. That's all I can say. I had a beautiful experience in the studio with him. We cried together. He was telling me about the story, about his son. And I was kind of, wow, should I ask? Because in that particular situation, I bought his book. He had a book. He signed it for me. And I see on the news, YouTube, it's all over. You see people are saying how they see the whole situation happen. But I want Eric to tell me the way it was, because sometimes people, the news, they say it different. We did 4 versions of My Father's Eyes. We sung together, 4 versions, and the last one was right after he told me about the story about his son. We both cried, and that was the one with the weed. That was the one with the more feeling. That was the deepest one. That's the one I used for the album.
And the album, tell us again about, is that?
The name of the album is Acertijos. It came out in 2020.
Okay.
And it's all the platform you can. Beautiful. It came out beautiful.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Yeah, see you tonight.
I think we have time for one more. If there was one more, I think there was one more question. Maybe not. Well, maybe that's good, because breaking news, we can do our sound check at 4 o'clock. So we are,
great.
because Pedrito and his band are the hardest working people in show business, we're gonna, first of all, I just want to say the only thing that warms my heart more than people who will come out to hear live music is people who will come on a bright sunny day to sit and talk about culture and music. And that is, I think that's a very big deal. So I'm gonna...
Before you close it, Larry, it would be so interesting for us musicians sit like that with a journalist, with someone that have so much knowledge about music in general. Like you. In particular, we we know each other for so long already, and the relationship that we have is very special. And I don't want to forget. I would like to say that once again, Larry, he's someone that been doing so much for my career. I was in the New York Times some couple of times. I've been in the best magazine from New York City, from the United States, because Larry, and I've been getting so many great connections with venues and shows because Larry, especially I'm here in Spoleto because Larry. So please, put your hand together for my brother Larry. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it a lot, man.
Thank you, that's sweet. And yeah, please, first of all, and his band, please thank Pedrito Martinez.